What's up, everyone? Welcome into another edition of our NBA DFS DraftKings Picks videos. This time for Wednesday, February 2nd. I'm your host, Justin Bales, joined this time by Spike. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Not bad at all. We're in this run of very reasonable NBA slates. Got a 9-game slate tonight. We had a nice, it was 7-gamer last night.
7, yeah.
7-gamer last night. 9 tonight. Before we get started with everything, if you enjoy this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. You can drop any comments or questions you have below. We'll try to be in throughout the day to answer them. I do want to very quickly pull up, if you're watching on YouTube, you can check out our projections portal here. Obviously, kind of quickly go over this in each stream. You know, you have all the normal stuff, player position, team, salary, all that good stuff. You have the advanced stuff, assist rate, rebound rate, etc. Over here, we have projected points, floor and ceiling projections, ownership projections, along with the karma value, which essentially is the best point per dollar plays. As you can see from last night, basically all of the top guys were Golden State. I mean, that's very clear when you looked at the slate. They had no players, so you're just kind of picking between them. But our projections did also offer that as well. You can use this in terms of tournaments, finding the lower owned guys that do come with the ceiling. A lot of great ways to use it. Along with this, you get in our core plays package, our actual core plays, along with our premium content, and you get access to our premium Discord as well. Furthermore, if you didn't know, we do have a $5 daily pass that we're now offering. If your account on the website is linked to Discord, you'll get in Discord for that as well. Where previously, when we offered the daily pass, we couldn't give Discord access, but now we are. I believe that about does it for that. Moving on very quickly to injury news, and then we'll get to breaking down the actual slate. First, Bradley Beal out once again. Thomas Bryant was injured last night. He's doubtful to play tonight. Joel Embiid will return, but Shake Milton is still out. For Orlando, RJ Hampton and Markelle Fultz both still missing time. Plenty of guys out for the Indiana Pacers. Domantas Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon, Miles Turner, Goga Bitadze, all out. O'Shea Brissett, questionable for this game. Jalen McDaniels and Gordon Hayward out for Charlotte. Dylan Brooks will continue to miss time for Memphis. Steven Adams is questionable. Darius Garland has already been ruled out for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Lauri Markkanen is also out for them. For Oklahoma City, Isaiah Roby is the only guy out. Then you obviously have Kristaps Porzingis, who's already been ruled out, and Sterling Brown for Dallas. Paul Millsap and LaMarcus Aldridge both out for Brooklyn. De'Aaron Fox is questionable for Sacramento. Marvin Bagley has already been ruled out for that game. I believe DeMarcus Cousins at the moment is questionable. He did not play last night. Don't think it matters all that much, to be honest. But then for Utah, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and Daniel House all out. Trent Forrest and Hassan Whiteside both questionable. Trendon Watford and CJ Ellerby both questionable for Portland. Larry Nance Jr. is out. And then on the opposite side, you have LeBron James as doubtful for the Los Angeles Lakers. That does it for the injury news for tonight. Just ran through that pretty quickly, but let's get down to the actual position by position. Starting at point guard, who do you like tonight, Spike?
Yeah, I mean, start at the top. Luka, 11,600. It's a fantastic matchup. Play as much of him as you can, in my opinion. Oklahoma City gives up a lot of fancy points to guards. There's no Kristaps. There's no Shy. So, like, no one's gonna guard this guy. No one's gonna be able to stop him. He's a guy who can triple double on the daily. Enough said. Go down the list. Tyrese Halliburton at 8,500 against the Nets. Doesn't really matter to me if De'Aaron Fox is in or not. Halliburton can produce either way. And it's just a really good matchup, and I think it's going to be a rather high scoring game. So I like that there. If Domantas Sabonis is out again, Caris LeVert at 8,200 is a great play against the Magic, who just aren't a good team at all. And I think if Sabonis is out, that this game will probably stay a lot closer. So just keep your eyes on the news for that. Going down a little bit, I have no issues with it. Josh Giddey at 7,900. The only reason I have no issues is because Shai is out. Otherwise, that's just too expensive for me. He's going to be shouldering most of that offense with Shai out. And it's not a terrible matchup against the Mavs either. You go down some more. Malik Monk at 5,300. I'm pretty sure he's probable. LeBron is doubtful, so I think he's going to get a fair amount of run. Not that really LeBron has much to do with it, but he's going to get more usage with LeBron off. So I really like that matchup against the Trail Blazers. And then if you want some cheaper punt plays, Trey Mann at 4,200 will probably start again for the Thunder and should see around 20 to 25 minutes. And right underneath him is Rajon Rondo at 3,200 against the Rockets, who just have no defense whatsoever. He only saw like 18 to 20 minutes last game. I don't think that changes much, but we've seen him put up fantasy points very fast before. So at 3,200, I don't mind taking a shot at him there either.
Yeah, I think you outlined it extremely well. I think assuming he plays, I believe he's probable. Anthony Simons at 6,500 is a little bit too cheap. He comes with quite a bit of upside. Overall, I mean, yeah, I think at the top, Luka Doncic, obviously. I think you can use either James Harden or Kyrie Irving. They kind of take away from each other, but both of them get the good matchup against Sacramento. I wouldn't play them together, and you're kind of hoping that one just takes over the game, which realistically is very possible. Opposite side, De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton. I like both of them in the matchup. If Fox is out, Haliburton probably becomes one of my favorite plays. He takes over point guard duty, and we already know that Brooklyn struggles against versatile point guards, which obviously that's what Haliburton is really good at. So I do think he is a really, really good option at that point. Giddey looked as terrible as he possibly could have in the first basically half of his last game. Still dropped almost 40 fantasy points. So just imagine what happens when he's actually playing well for basically the entire game. So with no Gilgeous-Alexander, he's the clear-cut option for them, and a very good play at that. As you continue down more, I think he burned a lot of people last night, so I think people are probably going to not be as quick to plug him into your lineups. But Spencer Dinwiddie is such an elite play. I know there's a ton of news right now around Dinwiddie doesn't want to play in Washington. For me, I say who cares? If he actually doesn't want to play in Washington, he knows that his fastest way out is to get traded. Produce, teams will want to trade for you. If you don't produce and you just play that the whole I want out, but I'm not going to do anything, you're going to be a jerk of a teammate. People aren't going to like you, etc. Other teams aren't going to trade for you anyway. So really go out, produce, and teams are going to give up something for you, especially if Washington wants to get rid of you. So weird situation, but under 6K with Bradley Beal out, Dinwiddie's too cheap. I don't love the matchup against Philadelphia, but at the same time, I don't necessarily care just because he is obviously way too cheap. And then the only other guy that I think I would probably add at as a salary relief option, I guess, would be Jalen Green. Super boomer bust, comes with 30 plus fantasy point upside, comes with like single digit fantasy point downside. Pretty ridiculous, but he is getting 30 plus minutes if his shot's falling, which generally it hasn't really been in recent games. But if it is, he does come with quite a bit of upside, and he can add a few rebounds or assists too. So 4,500 is just a little bit too cheap, and obviously Cleveland's without quite a few players. So matchup isn't nearly as bad as you would think that it is on paper. Shifting over to shooting guard, who are you looking at here?
A lot of the guys we just talked about are shooting guard eligible too, so they're perfectly fine here. Starting at the semi-top, I guess, Jaylen Brown at 8,700. It's a matchup against the Hornets. It's a little bit of a pace-up spot for them, which bodes really well. I think he's a little too cheap here. He's been playing really well. Hornets really can't guard any position too well, but they do struggle against the shooting guard small forward, which is more or less what Jaylen Brown plays. And his upside is just fantastic. right underneath him, CJ McCollum at 8,100 gets a matchup against the Lakers, and Portland's just completely depleted right now. So he's shouldering most of that offense. It more or less runs through him most of the time. I think it's just too cheap for what he can do. You go down more. Davion Mitchell, if Fox is out at 4,900, I think is too cheap. He's dropped over 35 fantasy points both games with Fox out. He's a little more scoring dependent, but his shots are falling, and he's just kind of hot right now. So I really like that play. Another punt, Ty Jerome at 3,200. He might not start for the Thunder, but he plays a lot of minutes still. Like I think he had probably close to 25 minutes the other night without him, and he wasn't even starting. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but like each game that the Thunder has played without SGA in there, they pretty much rolled out a different starting lineup each time. So if he's starting tomorrow, 3,200 is too cheap. He'll probably become a little popular, but for good reason. Other than that, I'm slightly interested in Jaylen Brunson, 6,400. Gets a pretty solid matchup against the Thunder. No Porzingis, so he gets a little more of a usage bump because of that. But that's more or less about it.
Yeah, I think this is, it's an interesting position, I guess. There's so many guys that like you can just absolutely take a dart on in tournaments. Bones Highland comes with tons of upside, even if he plays limited minutes. I have no issues at all if you want to use him. Dwayne Washington Jr. is 3,700. He's scored 29 and 32 fantasy points in his last two. Obviously, a ton of guys are out for the Indiana Pacers. Aaron Wiggins was put into a bigger role, 28 minutes in his last game. He's only 3,500. Austin Reeves comes with 30-plus fantasy point upside, even though he's only playing minutes in the mid-20s. Zaire Williams, another guy that's going to get minutes. He's not a great per-minute producer, but at 3,500, going to be really tough for him to destroy your lineups. And then obviously, like Corey Kispert with no Bradley Beal, he's down to 3,200. So a lot of under 4K guys that you can basically just take as a punt, which leaves the position as relatively interesting if that's the type of route you want to go. I do completely agree with Jaylen Brown. It's a really good matchup for him. I think that's really solid. Outside of that, Will Barton at 5,700, just a little bit too cheap. Utah's not necessarily elite against shooting guards, so you have a decent spot here for Barton anyway, who's averaging over 30 fantasy points a game against them this season. Then you have a few other guys. One, Seth Curry played 40 minutes in his last game. I don't love him with the Sixers, relatively healthy, but 5,300, I think you can take a shot on it. Chris Duarte at 5,100. We know that the Indiana Pacers are dealing with a ton of injuries, so Duarte could be used to do a bit more while on the floor, I guess. And then you obviously have the Turkish Lebron, who started at point guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers in his last game. In case you didn't catch on, he's 4,600, started at point guard in his last game. He scored 27 fantasy points, so he already beat value, 12 assists, 2 rebounds, only had 7 points. He shot 3 of 16 from the field, 0 of 7 from deep. Cedi Osman, if there's one thing the kid can do, is shoot. And obviously he can facilitate an offense as well. 12 assists is no easy feat. But at what, 4,600? It's if he's starting at point guard, you plug in Cedi Osman and you move on. And I know before the podcast you said that you don't want to play Cedi Osman. You have to. If he's starting at point guard, I would call him a lock.
Fair point.
So
it's a fair point.
It's a lot going on at shooting guard. Like there's just a ton of really good plays. And don't get me wrong, not all of those below 5 or 4K options are like great plays, but it's always interesting when there's that many options that you can at least punt on. And when you look at that, it gives you so many different ways to build your lineups that it just gets interesting in terms of more game theory than anything. But shifting to small forward, it looks like we basically have Jason Tatum if you want to spend up. Outside of that, no one really. Obviously, we talked about Jaylen Brown, and then the only other guy above 8K is Miles Bridges. So what are you looking at small forward tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's yet again, like I feel like it's an ugly position. I have no problems with Tatum. After that, you know, my next highest price guy is Lou Dort, 6,500. There's just no SGA. You know, this guy takes a lot of high percentage shots. He's an excellent defender. He can pretty much contribute in all 5 categories. So he's a really good play at a really shitty position today. If you go down some more, and this is probably going to sound ugly, but I just can't ignore what he's been doing. Reggie Bullock at 3,900 against the Thunder. His last 3 games, he's put up over 25 fantasy points. And it's not like he sees 30 minutes. He sees like 20 to 25 minutes. He's just been doing really good lately. It might be chasing a little bit, but 3 games in a row is a decent sample size, and they're not going to have Kristaps again, so he's going to be forced to play. There's no Sterling Brown, you know, like he's going to get some minutes. And if for some odd reason this game does go into blowout run, he should get those minutes too. I'm not really counting on that, but it would be a plus. Right underneath him on the other side of that game is Zaire Williams at 3,700. Just too cheap. You know, he has a lot of upside. And if this game does blow out again, he'll get a lot of run. I think he started last game. I'm not positive on that. But definitely if he starts, I want to get some exposure to that. Other than that, Norman Powell at 6,300 is kind of cheap against the Lakers. He's a guy that can contribute in most categories as well, but definitely a little more reliant on scoring. But if his shot is falling, the upside is really nice.
Yep, I agree. I think Dort's the one guy that kind of really sticks out. I think slightly above him, Desmond Bane is interesting, but I don't know. I don't want to pay 7,100 for Bane at the moment.
Yeah.
I will consider it. I think it's pretty obvious, and you know, it just goes back to what I said. A shooting guard, Cedi Osman gains value. He has small forward eligibility. If he's starting at point guard, like you just plug him into your small forward spot. There's no one else that even really comes all that close to him. I do think that Justin Holiday, who probably is forced into more minutes, especially if O'Shea Brissett is out, then Holiday should be locked into 30 plus. He has 33 plus fantasy points in 2 of his last 3, played 30 plus minutes in both of those games. When he didn't, he played 24 minutes, obviously didn't hit the 30 fantasy point threshold, but he's only 4,700. It's not like he needs that massive of a game to hit value. Outside of that, I think you can go down and at the same price as Reggie Bullock, who I agree is an interesting play. You have Jeremy Lamb, who has now played. He played 27 minutes in the last game, and the Indiana Pacers are just without bodies at the moment. They really don't have many bodies. And if you're going to give me Jeremy Graham, who obviously we know can light the scoreboard up in a hurry at 3,900, I do feel that that's an interesting spot that you can kind of take a shot if you want it. Shifting over to power forward, I mean, do you see any situation in which Isaiah Jackson isn't the top play here?
I mean, not really. I mean, he got priced up a little bit. I think it's still way too cheap at 5,400. Even if Sabonis plays, he's going to start. Gogo was already ruled out, so he's a fantastic play. You could use him, I think, at power forward or at center. So that gives him a little more. That gives you a little more flexibility when building your lineups. So I really like him here. I think he put up over 40 fantasy points his last game out.
Yeah, I think he put up like 47 or something.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely. I mean, it's pretty close to a lock, right?
I would assume that the problem is he's mid fives. Like if he was still in the fours, I would say absolutely a lock. But he gets a good matchup against Orlando. I think for me personally, this is probably a lock. Assuming Isaiah Jackson's starting, which we probably can assume at this point, and assuming that Chetty Osman is starting at point guard, I think those two are who I'm going to start my lineups with. I'm just going to plug them in and I'll build around them. I'll eat that chalk and move forward. But yeah, I think at the moment, I guess it's a little too early to really confirm, but I do think that Isaiah Jackson is pretty close to me calling him a lock.
Yeah. Other than him, I have no issues going to Kyle Kuzma 7,500. He had a fantastic night the other night, and Beal's going to be out for about a week. I think I saw. So it's a solid it's a decent matchup against the 76ers. They're definitely going to need him to be on his game to keep this game close, I think. So I have no issues going there at 7,500. I think it's a smidge too cheap for no Beal. Right underneath him is Evan Mobley at 7,400. Gets about as good of a matchup as you can get against the Houston Rockets. No Darius Garland, so that usage gets a little spread out more. And it's just a really good spot for him. I really like him here. Right underneath him, someone I used last night, and I'm gonna go right back to him is Wendell Carter Jr. 6,200, I think, is a little too cheap, especially with a Pacers team that's just lacking big men right now. Especially if Sabonis is out, they're gonna have a real tough time with him and Mo Bamba. So I really like him there. Right or not right underneath, but you go down a little bit more. Carmelo Anthony at 5,200 kind of gets a little bit of a revenge game. Going against his old team, the Trail Blazers. And we've seen that, like, without LeBron on, he seems to absorb some more minutes. And, he's been in the league a while, and he still has it. He's got a really good three shot. He can get you a couple stocks. He can get you rebounds too. So he's an all around decent player right there. Other than that, that's probably more or less about it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the majority that you said. I think I would add Kevin Love just because of the matchup against Houston. Obviously, I wouldn't really use Evan Mobley and Kevin Love together. They kind of take away from each other. The other guy that I'll add I guess I'll add two guys, both for the same team. One, Tory Craig. I don't think he's overly safe. He's only 4,200, though. Played 27 minutes in the last game. I feel like he really gets a lot taken away when Jackson's on the floor because Jackson kind of just does literally whatever he wants on the floor, which is absolutely hilarious. But if it's working, keep doing it. But the other guy that I'll add that I do think is a little bit too cheap is Terry Taylor. 3,500, power forward, center eligible. It's hilarious that he has center eligibility. But when Isaiah Jackson comes off the floor, Taylor does technically play center for them. It's just that he's 6'5", so it's hilarious at how small their actual lineup is. But 21 minutes against the Clippers, he scored almost 30 fantasy points in that. We know that he can drop fantasy points in a hurry. On the year, averaging over 11 fantasy points in under 10 minutes per game. Whether that, stays when he gets 20 plus minutes a game, I don't necessarily know if he's going to hold up that much. But at 3,500, as long as he's getting 20, 25 minutes, really, it's a pretty easy play. And I think that you could probably make the case that Terry Taylor would be the biggest reason as to why Isaiah Jackson wouldn't be the chalk here, because he would just take over as the chalk. Big thing is you can play them both at power forward and center, so they have plenty of spots in your lineup so that it makes sense to use them. But that's about what I got for power forward. Moving to center, we have arguably just the two best players in the NBA at the moment. I mean, they're just going back and forth for MVP, and Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. So what overall are you doing at center tonight?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to say this, and I don't think it's going to happen again. But I like Embiid more here. I think it's a little bit better of a matchup against the Wizards. I don't think they really have anyone that can stop him. Not saying that Hassan Whiteside can stop Joker, but I just for 600 less, and a pretty similar sailing, I'll take that. I'll take that discount. And again, there's nothing wrong with playing Joker. He almost triple doubled last night, and he only played 3 quarters. So enough said there. You go down a little bit more. Christian Wood, his price is getting up there at 8,900, but he gets a pretty decent matchup against the Cavaliers. And I was kind of watching this game the other night. Houston kind of fell apart when they stopped feeding him the ball at the end of the game two nights ago. So as long as he stays a focal point in this game, he should have a really good game. I kind of skipped over him, but I have no issues playing Anthony Davis for 10,200 against Portland. My problem is that there's a lot of you got Embiid and Joker there, and unfortunately Davis is only center eligible, so I'd probably keep that more to bigger field tournaments. Other than that, I don't mind taking a shot on someone like Maxi Kleber at 4,100. It's kind of been hit or miss lately. He had a really good game 2 or 3 nights ago, and then the next night he kind of just put up a dud. So definitely worth a shot in larger field tournaments as well. But I think you're mostly probably just deciding between Joker or Embiid here.
Yeah, I like both Joker and Embiid. I think if I had to choose one, I'm at the point where I just choose Joker, and nothing against Embiid. Washington can't stop him. I wholeheartedly agree with that. He's going to do anything that he wants. But even Embiid doing anything that he wants, he's just going to score essentially what Joker scores. And the difference between the two is that we've seen Joker do it over and over and over and over and over. Whereas even on this long streak where Embiid's scoring 30 plus real life points against Washington the last time they played, just looking at it here, 32 real life points, you would assume that he absolutely dominated, right? 43 fantasy points. You don't have that risk with Joker. And he's only $600 more. So essentially, he would need 3 fantasy points more to 5x. I'll take the safety in that situation. When you look at what Joker's done against Utah this season, I think he's averaging like almost 65 fantasy points per game against them already. And then you have no Gobert. You might not have Hassan Whiteside. The only reason I actually might prefer Embiid is if Hassan Whiteside's also out and Denver becomes this massive favorite or something. And you don't really want the blowout run because obviously we know that they do love benching Joker, when stuff kind of gets out of hand. Cool with Anthony Davis. Agree with your point, though. Like, I would rather just get to Embiid or Joker, whichever one you can, versus just playing him. I think Jared Allen for much cheaper is an elite play. Robert Williams against Charlotte is as good of a play as you're possibly really going to get. And then I guess if you drop down, it's kind of tough. Like Rashawn Holmes, if I knew he was going to get 30 minutes, I feel like he would be an elite option, but I don't necessarily trust Sacramento to give him that time. Still, 5K is a little bit too cheap. I think he's a really good option. And then if you want to take your shot on someone like Montrezl Harrell, super risky, stacked position. You can only use 2 centers max, 1 center on FanDuel. But it's tough for me to really think about using someone like Harrell when that's the type of situation that you're in, because they're obviously all just center eligible. But no Thomas Bryant most likely. So Harrell could get a few more minutes. And we do know that he comes with a ton of upside, even if he's only getting 22 minutes. I don't know. Do you feel the same way that when there's so many good center options that like it just feels gross when you're playing someone like, I don't know, even like the decent options? Maxi Kleber is a good option with Porzingis out, but it just I don't want to play Maxi Kleber when the other options that I'm considering are like Jared Allen against Houston or Joel Embiid against Washington, Jokic against Utah. Like they're all just so good. It just feels wrong making a gross play here, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it does. And yeah, Thomas Bryant was just ruled out for tonight. But if you're max multi-entering, like a lot of people like to do, I have no problems taking shots on all these guys in separate lines. But you got to do a lot of convincing to get me off of Joker or Embiid. And thank you, by the way, for also restoring my faith in Joker with you just saying, how he pretty much triple doubles every night, and Embiid does not. I don't know why I forgot that. I literally just said it like 5 minutes ago. So yeah, I mean, Joker for the win.
The last time he ended a game with less than 8 in any given category for the triple double was over 10 games ago.
It's absolutely wild.
He is so good, it's ridiculous. And I think that because he won MVP and now because Embiid's going nuts at the moment, I think everyone is kind of, I don't want to say sick of it, because no one's sick of watching Jokic play. I just feel like everyone's
used to it.
Yeah, it's like when LeBron just at all times is dominating, and like people are like, "Oh, okay, but he's in his 50th season at this point. Who cares if he's scoring 30 points a game with 10 boards and 10 assists?" Like everyone just knows it's going to happen. So like it doesn't even feel impressive anymore.
Yeah, I still don't understand why like I get why Embiid is like in the running for it, but like what you just said, and like it's just like this dude, like Jokic just contributes in every single category nightly. Like it's just wild. Yeah. And like what's even more wild to me is like they're still missing Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.
Yep.
Like that team, when they're healthy, like watch out.
Yeah, it just goes back to people being sick of. It's the wrong word, but you get what I'm saying. Used to it, I guess.
Yeah, they're just used to these dominant performances, and then like, oh well, that's just Joker being Joker. It's not like a ooh and ah anymore, because he just does it every night.
Yeah. Oh, shocker! Joker put up a 30-point triple double last night. Like, oh, okay, that's just normal at this point. Where if you tell me that happens, I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Whereas like any other player in the NBA, that doesn't just happen. Like that's a major feat, but because Joker does it so often, I guess, maybe not like a 30-point triple double. I mean, 2 games ago, I guess he did have a 29-point triple double. So,
I mean, the only thing that's going to make me ooh or ah at this point is from a DFS perspective is not if, but when he puts up 100 fantasy point game. It's coming at some point. It'll only happen once, but it's coming.
He just had over 90 the other night, didn't he? Not the other night, but relatively recently. It was against the Clippers. He put up 93 against the Clippers. I know 100% for sure he did.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, 49 real life points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists. I think he had a steal and a couple blocks too.
50-point triple double.
1 block and 3 steals. Like wild.
50-point triple double, and we're just like, yeah, it's it's between him and Embiid. Embiid's putting up 30 points each night. It's good. Like I don't know. It just feels like he's playing with a bunch of children, and we're like, well, yeah, Joker's doing that, but who cares? I don't know. The whole thing's weird.
And it's not even like, I feel like they're playing on similar teams right now. It's not like Joker doesn't have to carry all the weight, just like Embiid doesn't. Like Joker has Bartone, he has Aaron Gordon, even Monte Morris can contribute. And Embiid has Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and Seth Curry. Like they're both on similar teams and in similar positions on a nightly basis. So that just goes to show you that Joker's just that much better still.
Yep. No, I completely agree with that. That's all we got for you guys tonight, though. So enjoy the games. Good luck. Again, give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and hopefully everyone wins some cash tonight.